Right, good day Junior Tuckies, and welcome to this video dealing with some organic chemistry. This is one video of a few that are going to be dealing with the questions in the worksheet, as well as some theory videos on the topic. Okay, so don't miss out on those videos. My name is Mr. P, and I'll be taking you through this section of work. So without any further delays, let's carry on with question 3. So get that worksheet out so that you can follow with the notes in front of you. Okay, so when we look at question 3, particularly in the worksheet, here we find a table of results, and it shows us particularly the energy that a certain food provides per serving. In this case, we're looking at 2000 kilojoules, and what makes this specific food up: protein, carbohydrates, fats, fiber, and cholesterol, when we can see the relative contribution of each over there. Now, looking at the results or the information collected, you can notice that there is something unique about what we see here. One, we're looking at those 5 contributing portions to the total amount of energy, but also the fact that cholesterol adds 0 milligrams to this contribution. Now, that is quite a significant figure if we look at the composition, because we can expect to get a question on that, I'm very sure. And if you look a little bit further to the bottom of the page here, you can see that the first question, 3.1, deals with this first up. So after analyzing your questions, we're going to look at answering them. And it's very important to get a holistic view of the data that you're given before you start reading your questions. And that's what I always tell my students. I said, read your question, look at your diagrams, look at your tables, and make sense of them before you try and answer your questions. And that's what we've done here. So, looking at question 3.1, explain one advantage of this cereal having no cholesterol. Now, if you can refer back to the multiple choice questions we did in the first video, you would remember that there was also a question on cholesterol. So we already know now that decreasing cholesterol in the diet decreases the risk of heart disease and stroke, because there's less buildup of this cholesterol in the arteries and the arterioles. So there is the benefit. It says one advantage of this cereal having no cholesterol: less cholesterol means lower risk of heart disease and stroke, because there is going to be a less of a buildup of the cholesterol in the blood vessels, particularly the arteries. Okay, so there's question 3.1. Now let's look at question 3.2. So this is going to involve a little bit of a calculation. It says here the total energy value of 100 grams of this cereal is 2000 kilojoules, and we saw this in the table. If a boy requires 5,500 kilojoules of energy per day, how much of this cereal does he need to eat in order to obtain the energy that he needs? And here in brackets it says, assuming that he doesn't eat any of the other foods, and we need to show all of our working out. So this is actually a pretty straightforward question. So what we're going to be looking at is we're looking at the energy requirement, particularly here the 5,500 kilojoules, and if we can get 2,000 kilojoules per serving of this cereal, we would need then to take in 2,75 bowls of this cereal, or 2,75 servings, for us to achieve the 5,500 kilojoules. So we need to give our answer in a very, very specific unit here. So if 100 grams of this cereal gives me 2,000 kilojoules, and I need 2,75 servings, I multiply 2.75 by 100 to get the mass of the cereal that I would need to eat to get my 5,500 kilojoules. And that's exactly what we've done here. So the answer to this question would be our 275 grams that you see over there. Right, moving on to question 3.3. Now I've taken question 3.3 onto the next page over here, and we're asked to draw a pie chart, okay, to show the relative proportions of the protein, carbohydrate, fat, and fiber that each one contributes to this 100 grams. So our first step is to calculate the quadrant size, because keep in mind we are drawing a pie chart. Okay, we're going to calculate the quadrant size of each to make sure that we can correctly represent the contribution of protein, carbohydrate, fat, and fiber accordingly in this pie chart. So we're going to do protein first. Now we've got 12,5 grams of protein of the 100 total. Multiply this by 360, and what I have is a 45 degrees of my 360 degree circle that is going to be made up of protein. Now this is very, very important for us to do to draw an accurate pie chart. So we're going to be doing the same with the carbohydrate, and the carbohydrate's contribution is 50 grams of the 100, which make it 180 degrees. I'm going to be doing the same for fats, which also going to be 12.5 grams of the 100. And then I am again going to be doing this with the fiber contribution. Once I have done my calculations for each one of these contributions, my protein, carbohydrates, fats, and fiber, I need to make sure that all of these calculations are present in my answer book. I have to show my working out in calculating the relative size of each of the quadrants for my pie chart, because there are marks that are awarded for these calculations. So be sure not to do it on a scrap piece of paper, but rather in your answer book, structured correctly, that you can show the relative contributions of each one clearly to make sure that you get those marks. Okay, now let's get on with the drawing of the pie chart. So here I've just minimized the table or the information that we're going to be using to draw the pie chart. And once we draw the pie chart, it should look something like this. And it's important for our pie chart to have a key as well, so that we are labeling each one of our quadrants correctly to identify their relative contributions to the whole, which is the 100 grams of cereal. I can do it through a key, as I've drawn there in the bottom left, or I can show the names of each of these, as you can see over there next to my pie chart. It's obviously better to have a key because there is no confusion there. Now, how a pie chart is going to be marked? We're going to be using an acronym called TCLSP. Now, the first three are pretty simple. T, type of graph. It asked us to draw a pie chart. Did we draw a pie chart? So we'll get that mark over there. C is the caption or the heading. Have I correctly indicated the variables for this graph? In this case, I'm showing the nutrient weightings per 100 grams of cereal. And that is shown over there, so my caption is correct. Now my labels for each of the quadrants can be done in one of two ways. As I showed you, I can either do it in a key, or I can write them as I have done on the graph there as well. S refers to the sector calculations. As I mentioned before, while we were doing the calculations, we need to make sure that we are showing them. This can be anything from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 marks. It all depends on the memorandum that the examiner has set for this specific question. So we make sure we show them, we make sure that they are correct, and we indicate the number of degrees that each one contributes to the circle. And then lastly, we've got the plotting. So the plotting is, was I able to use my protractor to correctly measure the size of each one of those quadrants based on the calculations that I've done? So if you can do this, and yes, believe it or not, the examiners and the markers are going to be using a stencil. They will be checking each one of the quadrants to make sure that they are the correct size. For one sector that is not the correct size, you will lose 1 mark. If you have one sector that is the correct size, you will get 1 mark. But in order for you to get 2 marks out of 2, or if the memorandum states that this is worth more marks, you will need to have all of the calculations 100% correctly done, all of the sector measurements correctly done for you to receive full credit for those parts of the graph. Alright, so I hope this question 3 has given you some insight into how these types of questions are firstly asked and then marked. I really hope that this has added to your preparations and has cleared up a few misconceptions as we've gone. So please do tune in for some of our other videos on the Junior Tukkies platform dealing with the organic chemistry for grade 10. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.